thank you so much for doing this. So this podcast is about your guys' journey in music and how you got to where you are today, and we'll talk about how you guys met, and of course, the cover you guys did, the James Brown song, was awesome, and all about the reason why you guys decided to go with that, and what's going on. So, if that's cool with you,
it's awesome.
Yeah, great. It's great.
Sweet. Well, we'll start with you, Mickey. How did you get into music? Where were you born and raised?
Was born in the Bronx, raised in New York City.
Okay.
And got into music. My dad used to rap to me, apparently, when I was in my mother's womb. So that is true. Whatever you guys let your kids listen to, be prepared to endure that in the next phase of life. Because when my wife, it's a funny story, my wife, when she was pregnant and when she was breastfeeding, we marathoned SVU, Law and Order.
Oh, okay, go ahead. Awesome.
So it does not matter what my son is doing. He could be crying, he could be yelling. When we put that song on, he stops.
Dun dun.
So yeah, it's true about that. And obviously, just a lot of work in the New York scene, working with artists such as Kanye West, Lil Wayne, Drake, John Legend, Bruno Mars, led me to where I am today with the great Danielia Cotton.
That's so cool. It's funny that you brought up SVU. I have two boys, and my wife and we all just kind of started watching that. We're like, wow, there's about like 500 episodes of this show that we could binge through. I think we're on season 6 or something, just been having it on in the house, and there's still about 390 episodes we haven't watched yet. That's funny. Danielia, how did you get into music?
Just because I have to just tap into that whole thing. I live with a criminal defense attorney.
Oh, really? That's awesome.
Okay, so murder's in my house 24/7. He does only murders now.
Oh my gosh.
Watched.
Wow.
Freaking Law and still does to this day. I'm like, really? Seriously? Yet? So I'm saying, in my house, like allegedly. So I have that guy. I live with that guy. So music, I went to college actually for theater.
Oh wow.
Class is pretty famous. Pete Dinklage, we were all, from Game of Thrones, is probably the most famous from my class. We were, our last year we were at the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts in London. I came out, I did do one movie called Fresh, which Samuel Jackson had to be in because he's in every movie.
I was going to say, that movie sounds, I think I've seen that movie now that you brought it up. Yeah.
I was in the beginning as a Puerto Rican drug addict. And it was difficult back then because I had such a mixed look that they were like, she doesn't look black, but is she Latino? And so now it's different. We're definitely much more of a meshed world. But then I moved to New York with my other half, who actually was in the restaurant business before he became a lawyer. Don't even ask. And this guy from Bear Stearns who retired followed me for a year and then created a label, which pretty much catapulted my whole career. And so, the first radio station that played me called the manager down in Nashville who came all the way up. And so it just escalated, and that sort of came into that. But once again, I was kind of going against the grain because I'm biracial and I do like indie rock. And so they were like, she doesn't look like what she sounds like.
Right.
But I lived in a small white town in New Jersey where there were 7 black kids. I mean, when I was at Bennington, there were 10 black kids. So, and I'm like, Latino, black, white, American Indian, Jewish. I mean, like when I did the DNA thing, it was everyone.
It was like 6 pages of stuff.
15%, 9%, 1%, 2%, like if anything.
Oh my gosh.
We're not really that black. And I was like, it was really, and now, I have a biracial daughter who's stunning. She, you know, she's like biracial Jew with green eyes, and she's crazy looking. And it scares me. She's like 2.5. I'm like, just stay that little.
That's interesting. Like
but-
my wife is her she's half Filipino. Her mom's Filipino, born. She moved here when she was like 13, and her dad's white from Chicago. And she's white with, you know, red hair, but you know, you can tell in the features of her face. But then her brother, who's a couple years older, looks Asian. Like if you saw him, you'd be like, oh, you know, he's a Filipino guy, but you wouldn't know that. It's funny how that kind of happens.
No, and you kind of like, you know, when I've been in Morocco, when I was there, even in London, when I lived there for the year, I had really short hair. The Indian people were like, "Are you Indian?" And I was like, "American Indian." But then in Morocco, we almost all got arrested, and they were like, "Not her, she's Moroccan." I was like, "Nuh-uh," you know, like I'm American.
Oh my gosh.
It is. I think I just, you know, and if you saw my mom, she's very dark skinned. So my whole life, when she came to pick me up, they were like, "Who's that lady?" I was like, "That's my mom." You know, so
Oh yeah.
really, you know, but this is what the world is. This is kind of what we're fighting a lot right now, the changing face, and that, you know, don't get me started on the current climate of the world. But,
Right.
you know, part of the reason I did this project with Mickey is because I don't want to tell my 2.5-year-old biracial Jewish child that in that moment I did nothing.
Mhm.
In that moment, I chose not to act. I couldn't do it. I just was like, I have fought all my life against the grain of being what I was supposed to look like and supposed to do this. And so I really believe we are now on the forefront of, we're on the cusp of becoming a different world. I believe that will inevitably be different in all ways. And when we will not always be defined by our color, but more our experience.
Right. That's yeah.
I mean,
Isn't that what it should be? I mean, that's the goal. You are not I mean, you would think. I mean, yeah,
so I think that is that. So, but music, you know, my other half got me my first electric guitar. I always had an acoustic guitar, and it was history from there. And I, you know, rock and roll. I was a Black kid in a small white town. The first time I heard that music, it sounded the way I felt, which was angry. I wasn't white with blonde hair and blue eyes. So
right.
just it spoke to me, you know. So did Michael Jackson, but nobody in my neighborhood was listening to Michael Jackson. So
yeah. Wow.
that's why that. But and then we're currently working on a theatrical project, which is a musical that is the score of my whole life. And meeting this guy,
wow, you know, okay,
East Side trust fund Jewish kid, and so it's a pretty interesting, amazing story. So
wow.
And we're doing it kind of a little different with some rap in it and stuff. And a friend of mine from a long time ago felt really strongly. And then I met Mickey, and he's just a boundless end of ridiculous talent and just a human being on multiple levels. And so there you go.
I love that. Well, Mickey, back to you for a second. So, I mean, you've worked with all these amazing, you know, Kanye and Drake and all these people, John Legend. Like, where did you really kind of start? Like, how did you get to that point? You know what I mean?
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, I was going to school studying law.
Really?
Yeah.
Did you go to school with her husband?
No.
I'm just kidding.
I went to NYU. I studied law at NYU for a little bit.
Wow.
And I just kind of, it wasn't for me, right? Like, I just kind of was like, I was falling asleep in criminal justice class after drinking a cappuccino with 3 shots of espresso. And, you know, I knew that this was not for me. And I took my hobby and created it and made it into my passion, right? And when I did that, it was at the beginning of the internet era. So by doing that at that era, like, I was at the forefront of it. So I was able to take advantage of a lot of things that people are doing now. And that's one of the reasons why I was able to kind of connect with so many different artists, right? Like, you know, I toured with Pharrell, and then I worked with the Gym Class Heroes and the Fallout Boys. Like, you know, I sampled Portishead and was able to kind of meet them. Like, and I just did so crazy things. Like, the story, it just doesn't make sense from a kid from the Bronx who was into not just hip hop, right? Like, I loved electronic music. I loved alternative music. And I think that's another reason why the partnership between Danielia and I work so well
Mm-hmm.
because of this variety of musicality that I was exposed to at a young age in my career. And I was just happy that, you know, she reached out to me to be a part of this incredible project that we're doing. And being that I've been in the game for so long and I'm respected by so many different MCs,
Mm-hmm.
I'm extremely, you know, blessed to use that knowledge, use that talent pool that I've gained, and, you know, apply it to this great project that we've been working on.
Yeah. Wow. Was there like what was the kind of the turning point for your career where you know, were able to, like, did you have like a breakout song, or was like a certain collaboration that kind of like broke the ceiling for you?
Oh man, I've had a couple of those, but I would say the first one that kind of shook, you know, everybody up was the song called "Rockin' and Rollin'," and I did it with the Cool Kids,
Mm-hmm.
and they were, at the time, they were like the biggest underground guys that were coming up. You know, there was no hip hop at South by Southwest. They were the only ones
Right.
there, and I was allowed to, you know, they were like, yo, come down and perform with us. And when I did that, and then we put the video out, it was like #2 on MTV Jams,
That's
and on
crazy.
they were still playing music videos. Mind you, I was piss poor broke because I dropped out of school, and I have like one of the most biggest records out, well, in the hip hop world,
Right.
and I didn't have money to eat food. But that was the record that kind of set everything into motion for me to be who I am today.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And Danielia, what, like you talked about too, you had the song that kind of grabs the attention of a manager who like got you on the radio, and you
Oh,
had the
yeah.
connection down in Nashville. Like, how did that all kind of happen for you?
My brother sent in an album to a station called WXPN, which breaks a lot of artists. It's out of Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And this guy came up because he was like, I see a black girl doing rock and roll. So they're like, we got her, we got her. So then he came, and he was with Vector Management, which is huge now. They have Kings of Leon.
Oh yeah.
They have every, just look at Vector's roster. They had movie. So they came up. It was Ken Levitan and Jack Rovner, who are both huge. They
Mm-hmm.
flew to New York. I did a showcase for Universal Records, who was going to give me a deal. And then that next day we opened up at Madison Square Garden for Bon Jovi. Now, next day, Bill Botkin, who ran Universal, got fired, but I stayed with Vector, and they did something that I look back now, and I think it was probably the most instrumental thing that made me what I am. They put me on the road with like we opened for Lynyrd Skynyrd, Bon Jovi, Little Feat, Greg Allman, Derek Trucks, Robert Cray, Etta James. Like, I saw Etta James be wheeled onto stage because it was like her and oh God, she's married to Chris Penn, blonde-haired artist. She was in between.
Oh, sure.
Anyway, so we go. She wheeled out on stage, doesn't even walk out on stage, and then her first song is Karma. She does a cover of Karma, you know, and I was like, really? And in the beginning, I was like, you're putting me on the road with these old people. And in the end, they were insane. Like Robert Cray and Greg Allman would go out every night and be flawless. And like other people like Collective Soul and Better Than Ezra, and, you know, and all those kind of bands, and Three Doors Down. But it was,
like those 90s alt bands that were coming up.
Guys that were really extraordinary that I remember was sitting down, you know, like Robert Cray telling me how to tour, you know, Greg Allman, like watching like that go out every single night, like literally watching, you know, Etta James do that and then go back in. And then I started to realize that Buddy Guy, like all these people, they were like, hey, little, you know, because, you know, early on, Ahmet Ertegun was like, somebody sent him a CD and he's like, I want to meet her. So I went in and I didn't even know who Ahmet was. And they were like, today Ahmet Ertegun, look it up. You know, my friend was like, are you an idiot? So I walked in and he was just like, you remind me of Aretha. And like all the guys from BMI that it's like signed me to BMI were there. And like, it just happened. And it was like a moment you put in your pocket. And it's always been a struggle for me because they're like, I don't know where to put her because she looks like that. And she does this indie rock thing. But, you know, you do 1 or 2 albums, like John Perellis from New York Times. He just won a few real people that review you that get it. And he didn't liken me to any to any female counterpart. It was like Lenny, Black Crows. Like he compared me more to the males in the field. And and I'm still struggling to be me and look like this and do what I do. But it is so me. It's authentic. I didn't do it because I wanted to just do something weird. Like, let me do rock, the last thing they would think I would do.
Right.
It was my history. And so you continually redefine success. And the more I saw the greats do it, I just said, how do you want it? And so doing this project with him that we're doing now, I'm getting to rewrite and flip the script, and I'll create the project that I can live in. And it is sort of what it is. And would I have changed anything? My mother who forced me to go to college? No, it was the smartest thing to do, or I would have never become this specific type of singer. I wouldn't know theory. I wouldn't play more than one instrument. I just wouldn't have been me. And so it's just, I think there is, in music, you can be eclectic. You can be what you want to be. You don't have to look like the package. I think we're really beginning to meld into something different where it's people just listen first. And then they're like, oh, what does that look like? I mean,
right.
Put out a single and it never showed him, and you're like, oh, that's what he looks like.
Right.
I think we're becoming that. And I think we're still on the cusp of really letting go of sort of a certain thing, an idea of what the industry should look like. But, I think we're definitely opening up the realm of possibilities of what you can be and what you can sound like, and not being, stereotyped. But I'm glad I was on the road, because I think the road made me a different person. And those guys, I walked into the Hall of Fame and could pick out half the people I was rock and roll.
I was just thinking that. I'm like, you've toured with like half of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame Museum.
Like, I'll never, ever, ever be able to redo that. And so it was an experience of a lifetime. And they're just not performers like that anymore. That's not right now. We're not creating a vibe or to create instrumentalists like that. I think we have to get back to that. But so I feel like I was under the wings of some great shit that taught you the old school way to do things. So I'm pretty psyched. And, every album is just, I get to work with more incredible people. So it's pretty awesome. I have him, and I'm co-writing with the incredible Nashville guy now for the new album. And it's I don't know. You just keep growing. And shit, Biden got his dream at what, 70 something? So
right.
there's no cap on when you can achieve what you want. That's the biggest thing he stood for. It was like, oh, bro man got his dream at like 78. Okay, I got time.
Yeah, plenty of years in front of me for that.
And I still, I did the movie, I did the touring. It's, I've run 5 marathons. Like, what more? You just kind of, now I'm doing this thing with him, and this is going to be a deep thing.
I love it.
It's just, you keep expanding your world. You just, I don't know. Sky's the limit. That's how I feel. Sky's the limit.
That's so cool. And Mickey, how did you meet Danielia, and how did this kind of project start?
So, my manager, Guy Rute, he was like, hey, Mickey, I got a friend, Danielia, and, she needs somebody to, come do something for her biography. She's doing a Broadway play. Need you to do the raps for it. I was like, all right, cool. So that voice. So
I was gonna say, is he gonna be mad watching this back? Your impression of him.
He might bust into tears laughing.
I love it.
Good guy impression.
So, I said, okay, I go and meet with Danielia at her beautiful home, and we sit down, and it was an immediate connection. I let her know exactly, that I was the right guy for the part, because of all of the things that I accomplished from an artistic standpoint, not even from a validation standpoint, just from creating music that most MCs, right, and hip hop artists kind of don't venture into, whether it's me creating a project talking about 1980s artists and creating a fictional character within that, having him be a mentor, a fictional character being a mentee to Andy Warhol and Basquiat, and creating conversationalist hip hop, right? Before there was a Hamilton, or, you know, me rapping about credit, or me rapping about entrepreneurism, like things like that. Like, she understood that I would be able to take her thought process, right, her story, and put it into lyric format in terms of rap. And from that point forward, we've kind of been adjoined at the hip when it comes to musicality with a lot of her recent releases. And, you know, she knows that she can kind of, you know, call me at any time of the day, and I'm like, okay, this is what you need, and she'll get it either the same day or the very next day, you know. And I think that from that initial meeting, I think we've kind of entrusted in each other when it comes to creation, right?
Mm-hmm. Wow. So you guys are working on a musical together. Is that like a music, a play? And then also you released George on My Mind. I'm trying to put it together. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you originally met to do the
Play.
play. Okay.
Right.
Got you.
That was the initial play, right?
Uh-huh.
And then obviously COVID happened, so we had to put that to the back burner for now.
Oh, so this was all happening prior to COVID.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
So
I'm trying to get the linear timeline here.
Right. So we did a song together first. And the song came out really, really good. It was a single. Obviously, Danielia can break that down in terms of, you know, how far the reach of it went. And then from that point on, we were working on another song. We were working on another song called Lies.
Mm-hmm.
And from that, right in the middle of us working on Lies, we put that we put a pause on that, and we decided to work on Georgia, right?
Mm-hmm.
That I'm a New Yorker, but I live in Georgia now. It kind of, the alignment worked extremely well because I'm in the battlefield right now.
Right.
So my particular experiences, along with some of the research that I was given from Danielia and her team, I was able to put together, you know, a great lyrical piece that, you know, exasperated exactly what I'm experiencing here and what needs to be done so we can get out of this crazy hole that we're in. This is like the last seconds of a tied game right now.
Right. Yeah.
You know,
we're the final quarter here with the
yeah. Yes.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, so that's okay. So it all started with this musical.
Yes.
And then that led into Lies, and these other songs came after the musical kind of started, and then that turned into, you know, why not just we need to do this to kind of get the word out. Was that what happened there? Okay.
You know, sometimes you meet someone and then there's a connection, and like at a certain point, I just knew, I was like, oh, we're gonna do some shit. We're gonna do some shit. Okay, you and I, we're gonna know each other.
Mm-hmm.
And even we were up at my place in Woodstock, and I was just feeling a moment, and I just started playing. So he was like, oh yeah. And then he just, I mean, like, it's magic. And every once in a while you collaborate with people and you're like, oh, this is not gonna be the end of us. There's many things for us to do. So actually the single Different War, which is a conversation between someone white and black, has not been released, and the video is beautiful, but we wanted to wait till after COVID because it's like things are getting lost because so much is being released at this point. But I feel like when those things come out too, that is also something. So I'm just finding, you know, that this will not be the end of him and I. And, you know, the other project is big and now is turning into becoming like a television series type of thing. So
wow,
he is, you know, it's easy. I don't know, when I sit down to create, he can just do it too. And it just works. And sometimes you meet two souls. It was meant to meet, your paths were meant to cross, and it just works. So I feel like this is the beginning of just something that's going to be great. Yeah. There'll be more to come. Yeah.
That's cool. And I watched the video that you guys put together for Georgia State of Mind with all the old footage. Yeah. That was really awesome. Like, tell me about that video. Like, were you guys able to find the clips together? Like, how did that kind of come to be?
The social media girl who I use, I swear to God, these like 20 something like that grew up on the internet.
Yeah, that's all they know.
They're like, really? So just, you know, she does all my social media, and she happens to be my sister's daughter. So I do, you know, I'm kind of like her adopted godmother, but she does all my social media, and I knew she could do this. She's just really gifted. These kids, it's like, God, I don't know how they do this with a MacBook, and it's boom. And so I gave her an idea of what I thought it should be. And I didn't think that it should be a video necessarily of him and our faces. I said, let's tell the story. Let's show the images. This is a moment. This is a real moment that we're not through yet by any long shot. And we will not be through it in 4 years. So this is a moment. So she took that and she ran. And I said, get lines, show the people in the streets. And then, what people forget too, when you're doing these kind of videos, is that anything tied to anything political, you can use. Any politician.
It's all like royalty free?
License wise, like my manager used to be a BMI guy. So he like knows all that publishing license.
Yeah, all the laws and ins and outs.
Yeah, like I did something She Too, where I did a whole bunch of politicians in it. Any politician, it's open. It's an open field. Political stuff.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't know that. That's interesting. I mean, I guess it makes sense. Like, why shouldn't you be able to show, what can change everyone else's lives if it's something, wow. Well, so with you guys obviously are working on a lot together right now. What's the hopes for the musical? Is it already done? And like talk to me about like the COVID thing kind of like stopping it.
Well, it stopped it. And in the end, my partner is also someone I went to Bennington College with, and my friend Julie Tucker, who has she's one of the biggest casting agents in the country. My whole class, it was just one of the, everybody did really well.
Right.
Produce and develop it with me. She then, said to me, because she was like on a short list to sort of run Apple Television. And she said, Danny, this is, because it's sort of like the Cinderella story. I mean, I really came from, way different than him, Upper East Side trust fund kid. It's like the modern day Cinderella story, but it's true. And I said, but everybody does the Cinderella story, but nobody shows what happened after. Like, hello, Cinderella's acclamation was not easy. She didn't go from sleeping in the soot to being like, yeah. So
it's like one day she's, yeah.
This is sort of after. Like, what happened after? How does she? And my journey was not easy, and he was Jewish, and I was, I converted. It was deep. I mean, it took me and his mom, God rest her soul, 9 years she gave her blessing. She passed right before COVID, but she gave her blessing on the whole thing. And I said, this is a story, and it's beautiful. Like, he is my partner, as who's now, has a serious thing going on, which will come out, which is really going to tell the story. It's going to make people be like, holy shit, the shit that happened to us is like, it's unreal. And it just sort of had to be told. Mm-hmm. And it's, it's got everything in it. It's got everything you could think of. It's in there. And so she just said, this is a series. This is like a 5-season series. And so I said to Mickey, like, maybe this is things where, each episode starts with a block of music, and that starts the whole thing. And when we started to do the rap thing with him, like when I was up in Woodstock, I started playing a thing that was dark. And then he was like, yeah. And then he was like, I was like, all right, I'll go away in 15 minutes. And I came back and he already had some things, like, because he's so heavy.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is what it's going to be. So I think we're going to recreate sort of what anybody even thinks those Showtime, HBO, sort of what you think it is. We're going to challenge sort of the boundaries of that with a very true, intense story that I think a lot of people are going to be like, that shit's true. Because it's just, I couldn't make it up. So it's just, and it's a lot to put your life out there, but, you'll see. I mean, I don't want to reveal. It's it's like deep shit where you just take a deep breath and be like, God, Danny, you okay? I'm like, yeah, girl, I survived.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's really, I think it was meant to be told. And now I'm ready, and it's cool.
Was it difficult to get the courage to kind of be that vulnerable and even like share your song or your story with Mickey? I mean, anybody, I could see that being difficult.
I mean, what I think will be given to people is so much worth more than worrying about the exposure of it. Mm-hmm. And I think that stories like this will make people believe that anything is possible. It's sort of like when Biden won. And then I think that if you look at where, like my friend, she's like, from where you came from to here, holy shit. And like the fact that I'm me and that he was, you know, Upper East Side Trust Fund. I mean, like we should have never met. And so it was just, and then we fell in love and had to deal with the rest of it as it came. And then life just threw us like, as my friend said, one of the things is most that people should deal with in a lifetime. And we just kept getting back up. And I don't know, I'm surprised I'm still here, but now I'm here and the story will be told, and that's it. So it's very rock and roll, and it's pretty awesome. And I hope people will take something from it. That's it. You know, that's all I can say. I don't want to let too much out of the bag, but
yeah, I love that. I can't wait to hear.
That one right there is a talented person, and I can't imagine anybody else helping me tell it. He just has a depth that I cannot explain, that is, you know, old soulish, like he has lived 1,000 lives before here. And that's exactly what I need. So I got that guy. So lucky me.
I love it. Okay. Well, with Georgia State on mind, Georgia on my mind, with the song, are you, aside from raising awareness for the vote that's happening, is that really just the focus of it? Okay, we need to get people out there and get them voting, and you're using that kind of as a tool. Like, other than that, tell me the message kind of along with it.
It's purely for that thing. And yes, it is a serious thing. It is a serious thing. And, you know, there's a GoFundMe page, and, you know, after the money, whatever spills over after the initial expense from the video, will go to, you know, Fair Fight, you know, to Stacey Abrams thing. And then a single 50% of that will go also. So I think, like I said, when this is over in Georgia, we're not done. We're not even close to done. So I think we both believe in what this stands for. I mean, this right now, Blacks, anybody that isn't white really is being affected by what's going on in the country right now, just hands down. And I think shit's about to change, but it's not going to be easy. This is not going to happen overnight. And I hate to tell people, like, it's just not going to be like, oh, Biden won. It's just like when white people are like, oh, now racism's gone. I was like, not really, not really.
Yeah. It's a little step, but it ain't. It's not over with.
This will be a continuous fight. It's just now like, open your eyes. You know, I think this is what people say. Everybody's woke. I say, everybody's woke. Now what are we gonna do? Now what are we gonna do? This is him and I trying to do something to forward the movement, getting us in the right direction. So
I love that. Yeah, now people are paying attention. So now that the eyes are there, you guys are doing something to, hey, you're looking, this is what we're doing. This is what you need to be doing. I like that a lot. Well, thank you so much. Thank you guys both for Danielia. Thank you, Mickey, for doing this. We really, really appreciate it. I do have one more question. I want to get an answer from both of you, if that's cool. If you have any advice for aspiring artists.
Go ahead, Mickey.
Okay. Well, I will give the advice that was given to me by LL Cool J in a McDonald's one day.
I love that. I want to hear the backline story about that real quick. How are you guys in a McDonald's together?
So I was, where are you located, Adam? Are you in New York?
I'm in San Diego. So yeah, yeah.
So Danielia would know this location. So there's a venue in New York City called SOB's. Not like Son of a Bleep. It's the Sounds of Brazil.
Yeah,
right?
I've heard the name before.
Right. So it's Brazil. So I had a show that day.
Okay.
And I went to sound check, and when I'm leaving sound check, I'm starving, and I strictly eat kosher. So I go to the McDonald's to get a fish fillet. I walk into the fish fillet, and LL Cool J is online. Right. And for whatever reason, nobody knows that LL Cool J is online. I'm the only one who sees him. So I'm like, LL Cool J, my name is Mickey Factz. He's like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. I heard the name. I was like, okay, well, my mind is blown. Right. Like, yo, man, you know, I'm just now coming up. I would love some advice from you. And he goes, while he orders a ton of crazy food. He's like, when it comes to music and anything in life, you don't make decisions from your head or your heart. You do it from your gut and your inner soul. And I'm sitting there with my fish fillet and I'm like, what are you talking about? Right? And then he breaks it down further. He says, when you make decisions with your mind, it's a cerebral decision. So you're constantly thinking about what's the right way to go, what's the right decision to make, and what's the wrong decision to make. That's what the mind does. The heart is making emotional decisions, right? So it's just based off of how you feel, right? And he was like, from your gut and from your inner soul, that's exactly what you are and who you are. So whatever that tells, whatever the inner portion of you tells you what to do, that's what you do. And if it's not the right move or the right decision that you've made, you still can live with it after. You'd be like, well, that's how I felt in terms of my inner at the time, as opposed to pondering over if you made the right decision from your mind or if you made it from your heart, which was an emotional decision.
Wow, I love it. I've never heard anyone break that down like that. Because you always hear like people, we've interviewed hundreds upon hundreds of artists, and people are like, just go with your gut, or don't listen to anyone else. But to break down why, I've never heard that before. That's amazing.
Yes. And then he took his 80 Big Macs and proceeded to leave the McDonald's facility, And that was the last time I've ever seen him too. That was the first and only time I met Uncle Jay.
Wow, what an experience! Thank you for sharing. That's amazing. And Danielia, do you have any advice for aspiring artists?
Well, I'll take it back to the Joe Biden thing.
Okay.
One at like almost 80, and my feeling is my journey has been long, but you will keep redefining success. What success is to you, it will keep getting redefined.
Yes.
There's no reason to ever compromise for success. Let it be a longer journey, because you have time to get there in the right way and to do the thing in the way that you do and that you love it. Because they always say, be careful when you write that song, that hit, because you have to sing it 57 million times. So don't make art that you cannot stand behind, or don't ever sell your soul or your dream. You got time. Like clearly now we're seeing people achieve it at any point in their life. You have time. Go get the knowledge, education, knowledge is power. It's what makes you great, and you can still do your thing. You have time. And the one thing that, I learned early on is like live. A lot of people inhabit this earth, but people do not live. You cannot create art if you do not live. That is where you get it from. You get it from life. So live your life. Do not compromise your dream. You got time. You'll keep redefining success. And at the end, your definition of success won't be what you thought it was when you first started. It will not be like, I want to sell 47 million albums. It'll be, come back to me. If I'm still around, guarantee you it'll change. And that's that. So I just say, take your time, live your life, and create shit you can stand behind for a long time.